friends, this is the topic that has been assigned to me, trends and technology challenges in patent laws. To give you a brief overview of the scheme of my presentation, I would start off explaining the objectives of the patent system to lay a foundation, and then would focus on the biotechnology and the challenge that biotechnology posed to the patent system, and what is the present trend in that. Then a very brief note on the autonomous vehicles, very brief note on that, because it does not pose so much challenges as others have. Nanotechnology definitely has been and has posed challenges to the patenting system, and I would focus on nanotechnology as the second one. Followed by that, the computer implemented inventions. So it's not just computer program, but going beyond that. What challenges did it pose, and how did the court try to resolve it, and what sort of jurisprudence has developed in that specific direction? I would like to just touch upon that. Followed by that, the one thing that's being debated and discussed generally and also in the context of IPR is artificial intelligence, its ramifications on the patent laws. Followed by that, I would briefly touch upon the blockchain technology that also has an impact on the patent system, how patent laws had to fine-tune or accommodate or respond to the blockchain technology and artificial intelligence. Then to conclude, I would just refer to the business methods and how patent law accommodated business methods. Here I would be referring to the developments in other jurisdictions as well, and then take you through. Well, if you just look at the objective of the patent law, why patent law, and what are the prerequisites to be satisfied before an inventor would take advantage of the patent system, both for the purpose of commercially exploiting it, as well as for meeting the competitive world and the competitors. So what is the objective of patent law? Is it just to facilitate the inventor, or does it go a little beyond that? If you just look at the Constitution of US, Article 1(8) of the US Constitution, which said, confer exclusive rights for limited times to the inventors on their discoveries and inventions. Confer exclusive rights to the authors for their writings for limited times. The direction has been given by the Constitution to the Congress to give monopoly rights to both the inventors as well as the authors. However, that incentive is to be given keeping in mind the broader objective framed in the very same article itself. It says it is not just for the invention that you're conferring that for incentivizing them. It is to satisfy this particular requirement, that is to promote the progress of science and useful arts, that you shall confer such a exclusive right. So that is the foundation here. Then as you move further, you find the Patent Inquiry Committee in India. It said Indian patent system has failed in its main purpose, and it was highlighting the main purpose. What are the main purpose here? It is to stimulate invention amongst Indians, and also to encourage the development and exploitation of new inventions for industrial purposes in the country, so as to secure the benefits thereof to the largest sections of the public. So it is to encourage, promote the development and exploitation of new inventions for the industrial purpose in the country. So that is the objective with which patent law came into existence, as the Patent Inquiry Committee says. And Justice Rajagopal Iyengar Committee, which I would consider to be a landmark report, which said that industrial progress of a country is stimulated or retarded by its patent system. That's how he starts off. And then he says, laws have to be designed with special reference to economic conditions of the country, the state of its scientific and technological advance, its future needs, and other relevant factors, so as to minimize, if not eliminate, the abuses to which such a system of monopoly is capable of being put. So he was trying to suggest a framework, a legal framework in India, which must capture the development that are happening here. At the same time, it must ensure that the country's progress is stimulated, the industrial progress is stimulated by the patent system. That's the objective of the patent system. Let me just give you a brief outline. See, when you are seeking patent protection, the patent law has set out certain requirements. I think that is required for me to be stated in the beginning itself so that you'll be able to follow my discussion properly. The moment you file, I'm not going to the procedure as such. The moment you have an invention and you want a patent protection for that particular invention, the first criteria that the patent office would look into or the court would look into is whether that is an inherent patentable subject matter or not, or is it by virtue of the policy of a particular state reflected in the patent law excluded from being patented or granted patent. So included or excluded subject matter would become relevant. And now the patent law will have to examine whether the upcoming technological advances, the innovations in this technological field should be accommodated within its patent system or not. And where is it excluded and why it's excluded and to what extent excluded are the questions which come up. Then the second requirement would be whether those inventions for which patent has been claimed is novel or not. There again, the problem comes up. In respect of certain technologies, it will be very difficult for the patent office to determine the extent of novelty because it will have to look at what was already there in the prior art references. And in some technology, which I'm going to highlight as I progress, it will be difficult for you to identify the prior art itself. And there, it poses a greater problem to the patent process. The next one is that it must satisfy the requirement of non-obviousness or inventive step. Here again, for the purpose of determining non-obviousness, how are you going to identify the person having ordinary skill in the art? So Fawcett standard as we call. You have to identify as to who is Fawcett, and that is also a matter of concern in specific technological field to identify as to who is that Fawcett from whose perspective we'll have to determine the patentability. These are some of the issues, and as I progress, I'm going to highlight all of them. But before I proceed with the biotechnology and other things, let me just draw your attention to some vision, the future of the technology as to where that vision technology is going to go. And for that, I definitely would want to share with you the opinion of Professor Thakur. Is it visible now?
Let us now move to the next section of our panel.
Hello?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Can you hear?
Several captains of industry from
Yes, sir. It's audible also.
Fine.
We're responsible for not just understanding the way that technology is changing, but indeed creating that technology itself. So we now turn to three leading technologists who are going to share their views on what the future might hold, how large corporations can adapt to and take advantage of these changes, and what we as corporations in the private sector might be able to do to encourage the outcomes that we desire. So let's start with Professor Kaku. Professor Kaku, you've been a leading forecaster of technology for most of your career. What do you think about the digital revolution that we've seen so far? Where is it going, and how might it interact with other forms of technological revolution in science, such as biotechnology?
Well, in the coming years, computer chips will cost as little as a penny. That's cheaper than garbage, cheaper than scrap paper. So computer chips will be everywhere and nowhere, including our contact lenses. So when we put on our contact lenses and blink, we will go online. And who were the first people to buy internet contact lenses? College students taking final examinations. This means that my students will blink and they will not have to memorize all the things I've been talking about. This is going to revolutionize education because we cannot force students to memorize things that they can simply blink and get. And then if you feel sick, you will blink and see RoboDoc. RoboDoc is artificially intelligent. talks to you in plain English or Russian or whatever, speaks any language, accesses the entire internet for sound medical advice, almost for free. This is going to revolutionize the medical establishment. We'll still have doctors, but doctors will use RoboDoc as an aid. And if you're in a car accident in a foreign country, you don't speak the language, you'll talk to your wristwatch and talk to RoboLawyer. RoboLawyer understands the law in any country, in any language. In fact, I personally believe that artificial intelligence, the robotics industry, will eventually become bigger than the automobile industry of today, because your automobile will become a robot. You will talk to it. You will argue with it. You'll have discussions with your car about the best route to take. And when you want to park the car, you simply tell your car, park yourself. And the car parks itself. This is going to revolutionize urban economics when you don't have to worry about parking anymore. And then the next organ to be digitized is the brain. You may not know this, but 2 years ago, scientists were able to upload the first memories. Memories can now be uploaded and downloaded. This makes possible BrainNet. BrainNet could be the next step in the evolution of the internet. Instead of zeros and ones, instead of text, you'll put emotions, feelings, sensations, memories. Teenagers will go crazy. Teenagers put happy faces at the end of every sentence. Why bother to do that when you can put the emotion of your first dance, your first kiss, your first whatever, right there on the internet? And so in the future, when you walk into a room, you will mentally command the internet. You'll take dictation mentally. You'll turn things on, turn things off, communicate with other people. People will think of you as a wizard of some sort, mentally communicating with everything around you. That's BrainNet. And then biotech is being digitized now. We can create a human body shop. We can create from your own cells, so there's no rejection mechanism. We can create skin, bone, cartilage, noses, ears, blood vessels, heart valves, bladders, complete windpipes can be grown in the laboratory. The next organ to be grown, by the way, is the liver. So for all you alcoholics in the audience, take heart. We may be able to grow your next liver. So even the economy is now being digitized into something I call perfect capitalism. You see, capitalism is based on supply and demand, but you don't know who's cheating you when you buy something. You don't know what the profit margin is. In the future, your contact lens will scan everything in a store, tell you who's cheating you, tell you who has the best product, what is the profit margin on every single thing that you can scan with your contact lens. And so capitalism becomes perfect supply and demand. This means that there are winners and losers. The losers will be middlemen. Because why did Amazon become so big? Why did Airbnb, why did Uber become so quickly so large? Because they digitized the middlemen. So I tell my friends, if you want to become a billionaire, take an industry, take any industry, write down all the places where there's friction, where there is middlemen, where there's obstruction, where there's frustration. List all the places in any industry, digitize it, and you too could become another Amazon founder.
Thank you, Professor. In good futurism, that is.
Yes, friends, that is how the entire digital world is going to transform itself. And not only in terms of biotechnology, but in economic sphere, in all spheres, it's going to revolutionize. And we find those things happening now. Even if you look at the patent literature, you find these things are happening. Just to start with the biotechnology, see, you are referring to the bioresources. And there is a human intervention into the bioresources being modified for the best purpose for which he wants that to be utilized. And in that process, the patent law faces a challenge. The first challenge that the patent law would face is, well, is that a patent eligible subject matter? Are we supposed to recognize that? Or is it merely a part of the nature? Is it a product of nature over which an individual who had opportunity of laying his hands fast, claiming protection for? If it is part of nature, why should an individual be granted monopoly over what is the product of nature? And therefore, what are the parameters to be set by us for determining whether it's product of nature or not a product of nature? So in that context, one of the classic decision of the Supreme Court of US should be highlighted here. As you can see on the right side, this is Pseudomonas Bacteria. On the left is our great scientist from IIT Kharagpur who went, IIT Kanpur, who went to US, MIT, and then joined GE. And when he was in GE, he was asked to work on a solution for the oil spills. Being a microbiologist, he knew the characteristic features of Pseudomonas bacteria. He knew that they have the plasmids which are capable of degrading hydrocarbon in the oil. Now he works on that, and at the end of his research, he finds that he has been able to develop a bacterium, a Pseudomonas bacterium, with 4 or more plasmids in it. So through genetic engineering, he was able to create such Pseudomonas. And after that, they seek patent protection for the Pseudomonas. The patent office says, well, this is just a product of nature. This is a living organism. We can't grant patent for that. Refused by the patent office. But then the appellate board, it says, no, you can't, examiner, you can't call it as a product of nature because you don't find a Pseudomonas with 4 plasmids in the nature. However, this is a living organism, and therefore section 101 does not contemplate living organisms as patent eligible. Then the Court of Customs and Patent Appeals examines this particular application, and it says plasmids can be something similar to the chemical substances, and we have been granting patent for the chemical substances. And this is not a claim for a plant or an animal or a high life forms. So from that perspective, this is not a claim for living organisms. So patent could be granted. This goes up in appeal to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court had to examine section 101 of the Patent Act, which said any, I'm picking up the relevant here, manufacture or composition of matter is patent eligible. Is this a manufacture? Is this a composition of matter? The literal interpretation or the dictionary interpretation of the manufacture was applied here, and you find there were different raw materials used, and at the end you have the microorganism with 4 different plasmids functioning as a new organism altogether. It could be a manufacture. Is it a composition of matter? Answer is yes. So from that perspective, the court said that in US under section 101, under section 101, anything under the sun is patent eligible. Anything under the sun is patent eligible, provided there is a human intervention and it's markedly distinctive from what is found in the nature. So there started the process of product of nature and what is not product of nature. When there's a human intervention, that could become eligible for patent protection. See, this is how the scenario changed. And as you progress, the situations were there where Chakravarti and Kellogg's get patent for a bacteria which was capable of dissimulation of environmentally persistent chemical compounds. Followed by that, it was a patent was granted for maize plant. Similarly, a patent was granted for polyploid Pacific oyster. Uniploid Pacific oysters were known, but polyploid Pacific oyster was generated or created, and they said that this should be entitled for a patent protection. Proceeding further, even the unique T lymphocyte line and product derived therefrom were also granted patent protection. This cell line was in fact derived from the spleen of John Moore, who was a leukemia patient, who later asserted and went up to the Supreme Court of California claiming right over the discarded part of his body and even over the patents. Although the court said that there is no such right which John Moore can claim. Well then, it was followed by human hematopoietic stem cell covering isolated human bone marrow stem cells as well. Well, friends, the next development that was a very interesting development that happened there, can an organism as such be entitled for a patent protection? Microorganism, we did not have any problem. Now the question is about the organism itself. And the patent office issued a directive, popularly called as animal directive, in which it said any non-human, non-naturally occurring, so it should not be naturally occurring, non-naturally occurring, multicellular living organisms are patent eligible. And after that, an application was being filed by the Harvard University for a particular mouse that they generated or created rather by inserting oncogene, the breast cancer oncogene of human into the oocyte of the mouse itself, and that develops. It suffers, no doubt, but ultimately this is going to be used for conducting experiments to find a cure for the breast cancer. And the US Patent Office granted patent for that. However, this particular issue that came before the European Patent Office, right, it had to struggle. Harvard Mouse had to struggle a bit.
I'm sorry, sorry, sir. Akanksha Chaudhary, can you please mute yourself? Akanksha Chaudhary. Yeah. Sorry, sir.
You can centrally control with, yeah, that's easy.
Yes, sir. Sure, I'll do that.
You can control. Yeah, this particular issue came before the European Patent Office, and I told you it had to struggle. It had to struggle because they had to distinguish between a species, a variety, an animal variety from an animal. So the claim made by the patentees, that's Harvard University, was not for a variety of the animal, but was for the rodent itself. So from that perspective, they were granted patent. This also raised questions like morality issues. Morality issue was there is suffering of the animal, and people are against suffering of animal, and therefore that which leads to suffering of animal is opposed to the public morality. On that ground also, it could be rejected. That is what the European Patent Convention provides for. That is what Indian Patent Act provides for. That's also what the TRIPS provides for. However, the implementing regulations of European Patent Convention provided for a balancing test. The balancing test is if the medical advances of granting patent are overwhelming than the suffering of the animal, in such circumstances, you'll have to balance one against the other and take a decision. And in this case, they went ahead and said the suffering of animal is number one on the one side, but the medical advantages, especially the cure for the breast cancer, is significant, and therefore patent could be granted. That's how Antimouse got protection. So even multicellular organisms got protection, and that trend continued in US and in European Patent Office as such. Although in India we have expressly provided that and section 3J, no animal, no plant, either in full or any part thereof, would be granted patent protection. Then if I just move on, as it happened in US, a lot of developments happened there, and the genetic material isolated from the normal habitat, right, were claimed patent protection, and they were being granted patent protection. And after certain specific developments, there was one particular stage at which this came into question. That was myriad patents, as we popularly call it. In this association for molecular pathology versus myriad genetics, right, the case that was decided in 2013, the patent was here for BRCA1 and BRCA2, breast cancer gene 1 and breast cancer gene 2. And the whole debate happens, especially in the district court and then before the Court of Appeals for the Federal Circuit. District court invalidates that, and then the appellate court upholds the patentability. And then when it goes before the Supreme Court of US, Supreme Court categorically says that what is patent eligible is not a biological DNA sequence. Biological sequence is a product of nature, and you cannot claim patent over that. On the contrary, the cDNA, as they call it, the complementary DNA. In case of complementary DNA, the claimant would have completely eliminated the non-expressive part of that particular gene and retained only the expressive part of that particular gene, that which expresses for the protein. And that becomes the complementary DNA over which they would claim the patent protection. Or it could be in the form of a synthetic gene over which they could claim the patent protection. And the court categorically said that only cDNAs could be patent eligible where there is a lot of human intervention, which is different from the product of nature. So product of nature test continues to be applied. And they said naturally occurring DNA sequence would not get the patent protection. This is again a milestone, and this also led to a lot of social and then ethical issues, as you can see from this particular slide. Patents on human genes, a patient's perspective, and they said you have been advised to get tested for your risk of hereditary breast and ovarian cancer, but two genes associated with these diseases are patented by myriad patents. Myriad controls it. How are you going to eliminate? So this is the dilemma that they had. And now the patent, the Supreme Court has clarified that particular position by saying that you can't claim patent over the naturally occurring one, which is isolated and purified. Well then, the subsequent development that you can see here. As you can see here, this is the, in late 90s is what happened. It was vacantee mouse, as it's popularly called, vacantee mouse. Because Drs. Charles Vacantee, Joseph Vacantee, they started this particular thing. What did they do? As you can see here, they created biodegradable scaffoldings of human body parts, which what Kaku was saying. You can develop any part of your body, which is a reality now. So they have this genetically engineered mouse on which grows the ear, on which anything can grow, and then you're going to just take it off and then through surgical methods insert that into the human body. So any part of any human body could be grown. And here they claimed patent over the material by which they're going to create this particular human ear. And the entire synthetic process by which they're going to create has been granted patent protection for Vacantee and others. Proceeding further, see that's the next development that I would like to highlight here. You can see a mosquito here. Can a mosquito get patent protection? And what is that they have done here? In different parts of Brazil, the mosquito leading to various diseases were rampant, and they had to control the breed of the mosquitoes. And this particular invention provided a solution, and a European Patent Office grants patent for this. See, it was granted on 17 December 2017. And the company which took this particular patent was Oxitec. Oxitec, and you can also see the European patent number that's been granted here. What is that this particular patent covers? As you can make out here, the synthetic DNA sequences, which has been engineered purposely. What the reason is to mutilate or kill insects, right? Including insects inheriting the DNA. So even those which inherit the DNA could also be killed. It could be released into the market, and the idea here was that the insects will mate in natural populations, any offspring will either be blind, unable to fly, sterile, or die at an early stage of their development. And thereby the mosquito spreading would be prevented, or any other beetles or butterflies also could be prevented. So it was a claim over the genetically engineered insects in general and not over specific species of a mosquito. Let me make it clear. European Patent Office, European Patent Convention expressly says that any plant variety or an animal variety is not patent eligible, whereas a plant or an animal is patent eligible. So the claim here is over the animal itself. So patent description here lists dozens of species of flies and mosquitoes, beetles and butterflies. So this gets patent protection here. One development that's happening in this particular field, which has definitely caught the attention of the patent system, is the gene editing. The gene editing, right, which you popularly call as CRISPR Cas9. This CRISPR Cas9 is a gene editing technology on which there are several right patents which have been granted. Let me just point you towards what this particular CRISPR claim is all about in just 1 minute. It will not take much time. I'm sure.
I think the thing that's amazing about science and about biology for me is that there's always more to be discovered. And every time we feel like we've figured something out, it seems to open up several more questions. Scientists have appreciated for a long time that once we understood the DNA sequence in cells, if we had a tool that would allow easy manipulation of that sequence, that would be a very powerful kind of technology. CRISPR is a technology for changing the sequence of DNA in cells in a precise fashion to correct mutations that might otherwise cause disease. It's going to enable a lot of science to be done that was impossible to do in the past. So the way that CRISPR technology works is by the action of a protein called Cas9 that functions like a molecular scalpel for DNA. The CRISPR-Cas9 system has an amazing ability to recognize a particular DNA sequence in a cell that may be malfunctioning and then disable it by cutting the DNA. We call this gene editing, and we can use it to disable or repair a mutated part of a gene which may be causing disease. For Cas9 to find the malfunctioning DNA, we attach it to an RNA sequence that matches the DNA sequence we want to edit. Then we put this RNA-Cas9 combination into the cell. It finds the mutant DNA and uses a chemical reaction to cut the DNA strand right at the spot where it's malfunctioning. After that, we can sometimes insert the correct version of the gene for the cell to work properly again. It's a very exciting technology that's going to do a lot of good in human society and for human health. It stretches from human therapeutics to agricultural applications to thinking about how do we make better biofuels. These would be incredible outcomes, I think, of using this kind of technology in the future.
Well, friends, that is a CRISPR-Cas9 system, and that is again going to revolutionize, right, in terms of healthcare system. The healthcare system is going to get revolutionized in the sense that any mutations that is going to lead to diseases, etc., could be addressed through this CRISPR-Cas19 cutting technology, and then you're going to insert the appropriate gene. So the gene is going to be mutated, leading to diseases could be removed. And identifying that is a very easy process through CRISPR-Cas9. And there are, right, many development that have happened in this particular field. And you find, I'm just giving you one example of one particular patent that's been granted here. It is CRISPR-Cas systems and methods for altering expressions of gene products. The patent number I have already indicated here on the top. So that is one particular thing. And there are lists of other patents that have been granted, especially in 2020. one to Duke University, that is Durham, USA, where they have granted patent for methods of using CRISPR Cas9 based epigenomic editing systems for high throughput screening of regulatory element function. So this is very, very specific application. Similarly, you find the methods and vectors for rational multiplex manipulation of chromosomes. This has been granted to the regents of University of Colorado. And other one is the systems, methods, and compositions for targeting nucleic acids. This is particularly non-naturally occurring or engineered DNA or RNA targeting systems comprising a novel DNA targeting CRISPR effect or protein. So this is again granted to the Broad Institute. Although there was some initial dispute relating to who invented first a particular aspect and who invented later, which went before the different courts, the courts found ultimately that what has been claimed to one is different from what has been claimed to the other, and both are different claims over a specific sector of the technology. So they got patent protection for this. Well, friends, the next issue that is, in case of biotechnology, there are also issues. I'm just highlighting one or two cases, that's all. But there is a lot of rich jurisprudence that has developed in this particular field. If you just examine from a global perspective, not just India, not just US, but from a global perspective. But I would just highlight one particular case to highlight as to how non-obviousness aspect also posed was a challenge in the field of biotechnology. To put it briefly here, hybrid tech versus monoclonal antibodies. Right, this was in the initial stage. Hybrid tech owned patents on what is called as assays using monoclonal antibodies. Monoclonal company was manufacturing and selling diagnostic kits, and there was an allegation by hybrid tech that there is infringement. And monoclonal antibodies claimed that the very immunometric assays are anticipated by prior conception, but that was overruled. And they also raised a question that this is obvious and therefore should not be validated. It should be invalidated. I'm just keeping this particular part of evidence. See the next one. Non-obviousness issue. What was already known and how it was applied. 8 articles were there predicting widespread use of monoclonal antibodies in the immunoassays. So they're going to prepare a sandwich of assays, and in the sandwich they will have the monoclonal antibodies. And the patent office said, the court said, 4 of them lack priority and therefore they cannot be considered here. And when you look at the other 4, they are not in any way disclosing sandwich assays, right? They do not suggest how you are going to achieve the sandwich assays. And therefore, none of these articles already have addressed the innovation that has been claimed patent protection here, that is the sandwich assays. Then comes the interesting part here. There were 4 disclosures in the form of writings, one by Kohler, Coelho, and Jeong patent. Just have a quick look at that. Method for providing antibodies in vitro was already disclosed, but the court says, well, that again does not. It is about producing antibodies. Hello? It's producing antibodies, fine, but does it suggest use of antibodies here in sandwich assays? If it does not, then it would not be entitled for. So monoclonal antibodies cannot be used in sandwich assays. Then the next reference was, it again disclosed monoclonal antibodies, but did not disclose sandwich assay by made of monoclonal antibodies. See the third one. This is a very interesting part that I think anyone who can catch the pulse of the principles relating to inventive step will be able to appreciate this. This discloses use of polyclonal antibodies in simultaneous sandwich assay. So you find the sandwich assay could be created, but they said polyclonal antibodies are found in sandwich assays. And the close examination by the patent, the exact code, and the opinion of experts, they said polyclonal antibodies are known but that does not in any way suggest that monoclonal antibodies can be used for creating the sandwich assays because they are different. From that perspective, the court says none of these prior art references read by a person having ordinary skill in the art would lead us to conclude that it is obvious. And therefore, it is having inventive step, it is non-obvious, and therefore the claim over sandwich assays of monoclonal antibodies is a patent eligible subject matter, and if you have used that without permission, you are violating that. And taking this into consideration, the court went ahead looking at how successful this was, how commercial success was ensured here. This was objective evidence. Sales rose up from $6.9 million to 14.5 million in 1 year, and they occupy 25% of the market. And as you find to determine non-obviousness, there are secondary considerations evolved by the Graham factors. And the court says this indicates commercial success, right? And hence, existence of discrete prior art with missing links does not make invention obvious. So like this, there are several such challenges that have been posed by technological inventions to determine patent eligibility and also to determine obviousness or non-obviousness. And this is another area in which patent filing has started. Autonomous machines, autonomous vehicles, on all this. And one example that I would like to give here and then move further is autonomous vehicle arrangement and method of controlling an autonomous vehicle. And friends, as I move further, the USPTO has clearly laid down certain guidelines. See how carefully they examine. I have just picked up the latest one where they keep clear direction to examining applications relating to these patents. See here, treating kidney disease. So a patent relating to treating of kidney disease, right? Patent relating to danvic acid, patent relating to controller of the injection mold, patent relating to livestock management. So this is how the examination would start. That means to say, use the spotting chart. What is there and what is not there will have to be spotted by the patent examiners before they grant the patent. And this is a very, very interesting thing. I'm sure this particular anyone interested in patent system should also know this as to when a claim is being drafted and when a patent is being claimed, right? These are all aspects that should be kept in mind to ensure that what is being claimed does not fall into judicial exceptions in the form of abstract idea, right? Or law of nature, product of nature, or because there is multiple exception in the same claim itself. Then the detailed analysis they're going to conduct. And when they do that, see what they're going to consider. Whether there is markedly different characteristics analysis. Is it markedly different? Which I pointed out in the Diamond Chakravarti case itself. Then exception whether it's integrated into practical application or not. This again I'm going to refer to at a different stage. Whether it's integrated into practical application. Then whether the claim is eligible because it provides an inventive concept as such. Then they're going to look at the improvements to the functioning of computer and other technology, particular treatment or prophylaxis in certain cases, then particular machine, is it there's a machine to which it's tied, or does it become particular transformation, or any meaningful limitations on the abstract idea? Is it mere instruction to apply an exception? So on and so forth. This is how they're going to spot the chart and then find out whether it satisfies the requirements or not. Well, friends, let me just move on to the nanotechnology patents. What is this nanotechnology? Let me just highlight briefly as to what this would mean. Very, very brief, just a minute of it, so that you get a clear picture of what I'm referring to.
The vision is revolutionary. Imagine a radical new approach to medical science that utilizes our newfound abilities to manipulate the world of the infinitesimally small, the nano dimension. Imagine tiny sentinels that monitor the minute-by-minute status of our health. Imagine a science that promises radical developments in cell regeneration, our ability to repair lost or damaged tissues. A science that could extend life, revolutionize medical practice.
As you can see from the many tools that are out there now, and the systems that are going now into hospitals, this is not a pipe dream, it's reality.
A scenario that also approaches science fiction, a vision that, according to some, promotes the emergence of a new human being with enhanced skills and intelligence. But will that promise be fulfilled? And if so, what repercussions will these advances have on our lives? What new questions will we confront? What new issues will we face?
Available on Curiosity Stream.
Yes, friends, that is nanotechnology, right? If I can put it in very, very simple terms, you find it's the miniature, right? The nanoscale that to which a particular product could be brought in, and that has very, very significant impact on different technologies. Nanotechnology now is becoming crucial in innovation, as you can find. Medicine, healthcare, innovation advancement including nanotherapeutics, biosensors, implantable devices, drug delivery systems, and imaging technologies. A nano robot which can dissolve itself can be let into your veins, which can go to the damaged parts of your body, kill that particular cell that's likely to damage your body, and then it also disintegrates. See, it can only happen to the nano robots. If that is the kind of technology that's developing, right, is there any incentive for the person who develops that, generates that? Is patenting also one of the incentive? Answer has been widely accepted as yes. But then the patent law has its own challenges. The challenges for the patent law is that it will have to now, number one, identify whether it is patent eligible or not. So what has been available in the macro scale, if it is reduced to the nanoscale, and if claim is made for what is in the nanoscale, are you going to grant patent for something which is in a smaller size, which was already available in the larger size? Is reduction in size a factor to be considered? That's one particular challenge that has been posed. Second one, nanotechnology is not confined to one particular discipline. It has multidisciplinary facets. When it is multidisciplinary facets, how will patent law respond and say that, well, this is already known or this is not already known? Because it will have to examine different prior art references from different disciplines. Number three, the patent office examiners will have to be thorough with those different fields of technology. Do we have in all the patent offices such a manpower? Fourth, there are classifications that are to be done for the purpose of identifying into which particular subclass it comes, a claim comes. A nanotechnology patents would scan across different subclasses, different disciplines, and therefore there's need for cross-references to that. And these are being addressed in some of the jurisdictions, especially European Patent Office and the US Patent Office. They have tried to address these issues. But there are many other jurisdictions in which these issues have not been addressed, as a consequence of which either the patent officers are going to grant overprotective patent for a particular invention, very, very overprotective, which is going to chill innovation in nanotechnology. Or another extreme, they're going to reject that particular patent on several grounds. Both these will be avoided and a valid patent would be granted only when this multidisciplinary aspect of nanotechnology is properly scrutinized, the classification is properly done, and taking that to the nanoscale is not merely a process, but the end result would be something phenomenal. A carbon tube at a nanoscale performs many, many functions than a carbon at the micro scale. So is that an improvement? Is that the new technology altogether? These are factors that will have to be considered by the patent office, and that has been considerably addressed by the patent offices. When you find, as I pointed out in the previous one, carbon in the form of graphite, a pencil lead, that would be soft and malleable. But at the nanoscale, carbon can be stronger than steel and is 6 times lighter. See the difference that you find. And it's the scale only, right, from a macro scale to the nanoscale. And it builds on the ability to control or manipulate at atomic scale. You can manipulate at atomic scale. You need not have the macro thing. It cuts across disciplines. This is a point that I was trying to make. Chemists, physicists, and doctors are working hand in hand with engineers, biologists, computer scientists to determine the application directions and development of nanotechnology. See, friends, the scale of things, nanometers and more. This is just to give you a picture of what this nanometer means. You can just have a quick look at the information that I have provided as to what is at what scale, at what nanoscale, and what would be that nanocarbon that I was referring to, right? And that's definitely a big challenge to the patent system. One Japanese patent that you can see here, a drugs carrier for tumor-specific target administration and its application, where it was a tumor-targeted drug delivery system, which I was referring to in the previous example. A tumor-targeting drug carrier, a tumor therapeutic drug, wherein the tumor-targeting drug carrier comprises a full heavy chain human ferritin. So here it is the nanoscale. So the drug delivery system is being claimed patent protection here. And these are some of the patents which have been granted for the nanoscale. Bestable genetic toggle switch. This is briefly about biotechnology, nanotechnology, and automation vehicles, friends. But this, I'm sure this any student studying patent would have gone through this. Computer implemented inventions. Whether computer program is patent eligible, answer is in the negative in all the jurisdictions which say computer claim to computer program as such or computer claim to computer program per se is not a patent eligible subject matter. Then when would that which is not patent eligible subject matter qualify for patent eligibility is the question that comes up. Let me just refer to two developments. See, I am not going to refer to all the cases, but this through which you're going to understand and appreciate. Way back in 1981, the Diamond versus Dyer case, John Rehnquist was delivering the opinion of the Supreme Court. And he said that the claimed invention becomes a patent eligible subject matter. What was the claimed invention in this particular case? Claimed invention in this particular case was a process for curing rubber. So there are different stages by which the process takes place. You put the uncured rubber into the furnace and then provide the heat, requisite heat, put it at a particular temperature, and then start the process. So these processes are being explained as to how you put the uncured rubber and what's the kind of furnace, etc. Then at one particular stage in the process, you have a computer program, computer implemented process in which you have adopted what's called as Arrhenius equation. Arrhenius equation is an equation which clearly demonstrates as to what would be the curing time under specific pressure and heat. So temperature and pressure would be taken into consideration, and then it provides you the curing time. So that particular Arrhenius equation is being applied based on that algorithm is developed, based on that program is developed, and the program now is part of the entire process. So now the claim is for the process in which the program is written, and that is one step in the process. Whether that entire process here, which includes the computer program, which gives up to a certain result, is also patent eligible or not. And the code, see this is what the code says. In contrast to the claims in Parker, which was a previous case, the respondents here do not seek a patent a mathematical formula. So the claim is not on the Arrhenius equation. Although the process employed a well-known mathematical equation, that's Arrhenius equation, the claims did not preempt the use of that equation. Rather, they seek only to foreclose from others to use that equation in conjunction with all of the other steps in their claim process. So in conjunction with this process, others cannot claim. Others can claim it independently. And therefore, we are not going to preempt the use of mathematical equation, and therefore the claim is not for the mathematical equation. Friends, in this particular case, as you find in the previous one, the challenges, here the challenge for the patent law is to find out as to whether it is a claim for an abstract idea, a claim for a mathematical formula, a claim for a business equation, business method, which is abstract. And therefore, should we grant patent for something which is abstract, something which is not technical in nature? How do you distinguish that? This is where the court examines the claim and says the preemption test. And then the court goes ahead with another test, as you can see in the next one. A process is an act or series of acts performed on a subject matter to be transformed and reduced to a different state of thing. And if new and useful, it is just as patentable as a piece of machinery, regardless of whether the machine, pointed, but as a suitable to perform the process is new or patentable. And therefore, the test to be applied here is transformative test. The court applies transformative test. Let me just give you another example so that you'll be able to appreciate how the courts have been able to interpret and find out as to what would become patent eligible and what is not patent eligible, and how did this particular technology in this field threw open the challenges. Here, they had a problem here with the oscilloscope, digital oscilloscope, right, which provides you information about the body condition. In this case, there were finite number of pixels arranged in a rectangular grid. There was space which was left in between them. On rapid rising and falling of the waveform, the eye does not infer smoothness if it goes very fast, and instead sees a waveform as discontinuous and jagged. See, this particular jagged effect was called as aliasing effect. So this is a problem that the inventor found, and the inventor now finds a solution. So he modifies the particular program and starts coding or developing a particular code which is going to address the aliasing effect. I'm sure you're following that. It's going to address the aliasing effect. Right? Even on the TV also you find sometimes when the connectivity is not proper, or our own webinars that happen here. Most of the time when your internet connection is not proper, right, your voice would just get dragged, or your image would not be proper, right? This is one such thing that happens in the oscilloscope also. It happens, and that's called as aliasing effect. How to fix that aliasing effect? They came out with the solution. The solution was they implemented anti-aliasing system. In the anti-aliasing system, pixel illumination was modulated so that the intensity of each pixel's illumination decreased as its distance from the real waveform increased. So employing this anti-aliasing technique, it eliminated any apparent discontinuity, jaggedness or oscillation in the waveform, and that gave rise to visual appearance of as smooth continuous waveform. This was claim protection, and this was questioned, and this was the particular claim. The court holds that this particular claim 15, is right a combination of elements constituting a machine for producing anti-aliased waveform. Though this is implemented on a general purpose computer, you find the end result of that particular program as a process is to give the smooth waveform, and that is useful, concrete, and tangible result. So any process that gives rise to useful, concrete, tangible result shall be entitled for patent protection. So how did the court address this particular problem of saying that this particular program is a part of the computer machine itself, and this is bringing about the desired tangible result. So anything that gives rise to this result shall be entitled for patent, and therefore they were able to address this particular issue of whether this should get patent protection or not. So this is one particular aspect of it. From this, I'll just move on to the last stage, the present position in US I'm also going to refer to the Indian position. The Allies Corporation case, which went ahead with all the other cases and said, when you claim a protection for computer program or an abstract idea, first question to be asked is whether the claims at issue are directed to a patent ineligible concept. So are you claiming an abstract idea? Yes. If the answer is yes, then we're going to find out whether there is any limitation and whether it provides for any inventive concept to transform the claimed abstract idea into patent eligible application or not. This Allies test is the latest test, but the US Patent Office has modified that and has brought in this particular element. You can just see here. The second one is you will have to find out whether the abstract idea has been integrated into practical application. Yes, it's a computer program as an abstract idea, a business but abstract idea, but has it been integrated into practical application? The moment you find it's integrated to practical application, it falls into the other side and becomes a patent eligible subject matter. And in India, you have section 3K, and the test that has been applied now is 2017 guidelines, right? Based on which patents have been granted. With that, let me, friends, I just have little time left. I think I'll be able to cover the other three areas very, very briefly and then quickly. Artificial intelligence. That's the big challenge that is posing to the patent system. Not in terms of patentability. In terms of patentability, we have already set the guidelines, right? It's a part of the software that's being claimed, plus other features which are being claimed for which patent law has generally laid down the norms. Therefore, that would not pose a big problem for us. As you can find here, it's mimicking biological cognition. So AI systems autonomously create works and inventions. The role in medical, arts, automotive, energy, gas, manufacturing industries, name the area, you have the AI in place, including education. And to put it very, very briefly, AI is referring here to a computer science that is aimed at developing systems that can carry out tasks considered to require human intelligence. Machines that can become better at a task typically performed by humans with limited or non-human intervention. With limited human intervention or non-human intervention. Machine learning is associated with that. It's an AI process, that which is going to use algorithms and statistical models to allow computers to make decisions without having to explicitly program it to perform the task. So that's part of machine learning, an extension of AI. And you find in the field of different fields like breast cancer screening, right, stroke detection, patient monitoring, AI predicted acute kidney problems, etc. All these are in the medical field that AI has been used. And one core issue that came before the patent offices of UK Patent Office, US Patent Office, and European Patent Office is about this, what is popularly called as DOBUS. DOBUS is an AI, a machine, which was used by the creator of that, and DOBUS patent claims are like this. The application for patent on beverage container and a fraction light signals. That was one patent claim. Then the second one is interesting one. Food container suitable for packaging liquids. So the wall will have to be fractal profile with convex and concave fractal elements, creating pits. These are the claims patents claimed. The third was devices and methods for attracting enhanced attention, etc., relating to LED. Whether these are patent eligible or not, patent office does not have any problem whatsoever, because you are claiming patent on a beverage container. It's a patent eligible subject matter. Whether it satisfies novelty, non-obviously is the next question to be satisfied. Improved food container is a patent eligible subject matter. It's not an abstract idea. Devices and methods, they're patent eligible. Then what is the problem? What is the problem with these claims? The problem is the applicant wrote the name of Dobbs, the machine, as the inventor. Can Dobbs be the inventor or not? And can there be an invention by Dobbs which can be granted patent or not? These are the question. And let me just examine the Indian position. Section 6 of the Patent Act here says any of the following persons, but it does not refer to any AI systems. And even the court has clearly indicated that only human beings can become inventors and not artificial persons. Then there is need for inventive faculty is an important criteria to determine the inventor as decided by the Bombay High Court long back. So keeping that in mind, let us examine it. And this is what happened right with the Dobbs case. When the Flashpoint IP Limited, right, which created Dobbs, it claimed protection. The USPT was said inventors are to be natural persons. UK IPO and EPO also ruled on the same lines. What is the rationale behind that? What are the arguments that come up here? I'm not going to answer this question, but I'm going to raise the questions and then try to address this. Maybe in the course of your debate, you can continue this particular debate. First is, the manual said there must be conception, that's formation in the mind of the inventor of a definite and permanent idea, and then it should be reduced into practice. Can AI system is capable of such conception in the mind? Can it exhibit the common sense, right, unless it is built into it, without that being built into it? If that's being built into it, then should the person who built it be the creator of that? Then the next question that comes is, does it have unique identity to have right of inventorship? Can you identify it uniquely, separately? Does it have a free will? If it does not, does it have a unique identity? Then ethical concerns are there. So you're going to distinguish between an employee and not an employee. That employees, they're not employees that can assign their rights. Employees are not property of the employees. Robot become properties of the owners. So if robot is the property of owners, then is there a scope for assignment? Because employees will have to assign it and not the property. And in such circumstances, where do you identify the robots, or where do you identify the AI machines? And therefore, can they be inventors? The last question is, of course, a very general question about signing the declaration under oath that person is true inventor, which is not possible for a machine. So under these circumstances, all the patent offices, at least 3 patent offices where we went before, they refused to recognize Dobbs as inventor. So inventorship is one of the problems there, not patent eligibility of the AI created invention. EPO also gave the same decision. However, you find whether AI gets protection or not, I just have 2 examples to give you here. One is a heart monitoring apparatus, which comprises of input means for receiving an ECG from a patient. See here, there is neural networks which identify distinctive irregular heartbeats, right, the spurious one with regard to monitoring heart conditions. They also determine if ECG pulses, not including the distinctive irregular heartbeats, they are within or outside the regular heartbeat and in dimensional volume. Then what is the problem that it addresses? It registers number of false positives, right, a number of heartbeats like 10. What is the solution provided here? You have the machine, you have the ECG report, but there is a neural computer, that is the AI part of it, which identifies the irregular heartbeat conditions and raise an alarm. The European Patent Office said the problem is technical. The results, solutions are technical. So technical solution to a technical problem, and therefore it is patent eligible. So AI part in this particular apparatus, it gets patent protection. That's not a problem at all. And similarly, in the another one, it was relating to insulin pump, where also they granted patent. Well, friends, let me just move on to the blockchain technology in little time that I'm left with. Blockchain technology, again, is not a major problem as far as granting of patent is concerned. Can it be utilized by the patent office? Can it be utilized by the copyright office? Can it be utilized by other offices so that the entire transaction could be more secure? But are there any claims for patent even within the blockchain technology also? Answer is yes. Blockchain, as you can see here, is a data structure which stores a list of transactions and can be thought of as a distributed electronic ledger, which records transactions between source identifiers and a destination identifier. This is the technology. And it is spread across the jurisdiction. And of course, when a litigation comes, the jurisdiction issue also would come up there, with which I'm not concerned right now. Well then, this is the digital decentralized distribution I already pointed out. So the broader computer-related applications, inventions would apply here. The same rule will apply. This has been used in several places, as you can see here. Even NASDAQ, the stock exchange, uses the patented blockchain cloud system. MIT, right, also uses copyrightable license covers blockchain. Similarly, Internet Court in Hangzhou also is maintaining the data of authorship, etc., relating to copyright, and uses blockchain technology. Blockchain technology is also used by the court, Chinese court here, while determining copyright infringement. So it's been widely used, widely applied. And the claims, you can just see as an example here, one of the claim to the blockchain technology, a part of blockchain technology, systems and methods of blockchain transaction recordation. And friends, don't be under the impression that blockchain technology is just one technology for which one patent would suffice. It has series of inventions which go into each part of it. And Satoshi, whom we cannot forget, was the person who invented this blockchain technology, but he picked it up from what is called as Merkle tree of Stanford University's patented one. Merkle tree patent expires, and Satoshi builds upon that particular thing, and then comes out with the what you call the Bitcoin, right? However, though Satoshi developed this particular Bitcoin, he could not practice Bitcoin because that is the end of the process there. And therefore, you can't, right, assign, transfer, etc., of that. If you look at the investment trend, this is how it starts. Right, in 2019, there were 5,551 patent families in the field of blockchain technology. And the key players are Tencent Technology, Alibaba. Now Alibaba has taken over Tencent Technology this year. IBM, Bank of America, Intel, Visa, Siemens, and many others. But let me point out, friends, at this particular stage, someone who is keenly observing patent system should be able to appreciate that. What are those part of blockchain technology that has been subject matter of patent? This is around these concepts. These are the concepts around which patent filing has happened in blockchain technology, and therefore it is not a claim for blockchain technology as a whole. In that, there is that verification part, verification concept, right, which authenticates the whole process. That has been subject of so many patents. Smart contract that happens between the two persons, and then how ultimately it culminates in binding those two parties. The smart contract process online is also part of patent technology. Sorry. Authentication of the person who is entering there. The payment mode, that's again built upon certain specific technologies. That is again subject matter of patent. There are several such technology which has been patented even on payment. Consensus and digital currency. Now, friends, comes the blockchain, right, part of it. Then last is cryptocurrency. These are the concepts around which patent filing happens. There could be interrelationship between these two, but practically these are the specific areas in which patent is happening within the broad framework of blockchain technology. With that, friends, let me just come to the last part of my discussion. I know that there are quite a few other technologies posing other things, but my attempt here is merely an illustrative one, just to lead you to the further discussion or debate. A business method. Is a business method an abstract idea? and therefore incapable of getting patent protection. Indian law, section 3K has said it cannot get patent protection, and the IPAB has categorically said that if it's a claim for business method, 3K excludes that, and therefore there cannot be a relook at it. It is excluded once and for all. Whereas this one with which I'm going to close my discussion is State Street Bank versus Signature Financing Group. Here there was a claim for the what is popularly called as hub and spoke financial services system. System for hub and spoke financial services. This is briefly the claim here. It's directed to a data processing system for implementing an investment structure in which 2 or 3 mutual funds mingle their assets in so-called spokes to combine their assets in a common second generation investment portfolio. The purpose is to pool the common expenses and ultimately to categorize and then allocate the expenses plus also the profit derived by different mutual funds. All that has been integrated into a program, and when it's integrated into a program, the court concludes and says for a mathematical algorithm to be patentable, it must be reduced to practical application such that it produces a useful, concrete, and tangible result. What happened in this particular case? Transformation of data representing discrete dollar amounts by machine through a series of mathematical calculations into final share price constitutes a practical application of a mathematical algorithm formula. What is expected is practical application. So the business method is not an abstract idea in this context, because business method has a specific application. If it's specifically applied, then business method would also get the patent protection. So it's producing useful, concrete, and tangible result. And the court, in this case, for the first time, it said business methods are not excluded subject matter. It is constituting a statutory subject matter. So this was again a big problem for the patent offices. Patent office for quite some time thought that business method as a category should be excluded. But business method as a category cannot be excluded. Only abstract idea, right, could be as a category be excluded. If it doesn't fall into that, anything doesn't fall into that should get the patent protection. Well, friends, I have just, as I told you, listed few of these instances before you, and it is for you to think, analyze, and progress. Let me thank Professor T R Subramania for giving me this particular opportunity of sharing my thoughts and the jurisprudential development in this particular area with CMRU faculty and students. Thank you very much. Over to Vidya.
Thank you so much, sir. Sapna, please go ahead, you.
Thank you so much, sir, for sharing with us the extraordinary amount of knowledge that you hold on this topic. So, if you give us the permission, can we proceed towards the question and answer session?
Pardon me?
So, if you give us the permission, can we proceed towards the question and answer?
Sure, I have no problem.
Participants, kindly drop all your questions in the chat box.
Hello, Sapna.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, there is already one question by Nihat. Can you please convey the question for Sir Dio?
Yes, ma'am. So, sir, Nihad of first sem BLLB is asked a question. So he's like, I would like to make a sincere request to you to give your valuable opinion on the downsides of the patents filed that I am going to point out about biotech and nanotech. So according to him, the whole idea seems to promote immorality. In other words, death rates will decrease significantly. That's totally against the nature. And the second one is, if it can repair, then it can also kill. So if gone wrong in So if gone in wrong hands, millions can die, and even the government cannot be trusted as they could use it as a bioweapon. So since the programming can be charged for hacked.
Yeah, I do not know in which context he's asking this question. It is little not clear. But as I understand here, he is looking at the downsides of the technology as such, right? The technology as such, and the patent office here is concerned about the utility of that particular technology, and when it looks at utility, it also looks at the general good of the community or the public. So from that perspective, the concept of utility came up. Now, whether that is going to be harmful to the society or not is also addressed by the patent system itself. For example, if I can just draw his attention to the two clauses which clearly say that if there is a claim for a patent, the commercial exploitation of which is opposed to public order or morality, or if the commercial exploitation of that is likely to affect life of human, animal, plant, or also going to affect the environment, that is a strong ground on which patent could be refused. So within the patent system, you have an inbuilt system which says that if that particular patent is opposed to morality or public order, it shall not see the certificate from the patent office at all. It's likely to be rejected. That's the context in which I was referring to Harvard mouse also. When I said Harvard mouse has medical advantages, because Harvard mouse or the Onco mouse was capable of addressing the breast cancer issue, and therefore medical advantages were there. I'll just give you a next example of a case which came before the same European Patent Office, in which again the claim was for a mouse. And this particular time the claim for the mouse was not for the oncogene carrying mouse, but for the baldness carrying gene. It was Upjohn who filed this particular application, and the European Patent Office said this which carries the human gene is going to suffer. Suffering of animal is there, and what is going to be the advantage that you're going to get is going to be a cure for baldness. And cure for baldness, right, does not outweigh the suffering of the animal, and therefore you're not going to grant patent for the suffering of animal. So that inbuilt mechanism is there within the patent system itself. I hope I have answered your question, Mr. Nihat. Yes, any other?
Yes, there's a
Thank you
question.
so much.
Yeah, please.
So he's asking, what's the progress of our country in registration of patent in machine learning? It's good to see the progress of blockchain from your presentation on the patent.
Yeah, see, even in terms of patenting of these technologies are concerned, those companies which are filing patent application in other jurisdictions have also approached the Indian Patent Office. And Indian patent system is clear. As I pointed out, the third guideline for examination of computer-related inventions in India has some element of clarity in it. And therefore, anything which is patent eligible would definitely be a granted patent. And hence, the patent in the field of machine learning, could be a challenge, but there is no application as far as inventorship for the machine itself. No such application has come. And I am sure if it comes, the patent law as such may not permit such a claim for inventorship at present. However, all of you as students know the juristic personality. You studied jurisprudence, you also know that whether anything other than a human being also could be a juristic person or not. And therefore, if this AI could become a juristic person, technically, like Sophia in Saudi Arabia, I'm sure, that also may get a status, that also may file an application. But at present, that's not a condition. Yes, please.
So there's one more question from Afreen. So she's asking, is there any patent for biomakers?
For?
Biomakers.
It's not biomakers. I'm sure she's referring to biomarkers. Just ask her. It should be biomarker. Biomarkers. right? Biomarkers are again the genetic tools by which you are going to identify specific gene parts. And biomarkers per se, right, are tools. If tools are granted patent, this will also get the patent protection. Yes, please.